Hey guys, Shy Guy Picks here. Hope everyone's doing well, having a great week. We're back with Dana White's Contender Series Season 9, Week 1, starting Tuesday, August 12th. And let's be honest, I love me some Dana White Contender Series. You get to see the prospects who are going to potentially be part of the UFC. And not only that, I do really, really well on Dana White's Contender Series. It's only 5 fights, so you can do a lot more research and you got a lot more time. We've got some finishers, we got some submission artists, but at the end of the day, we're here also as gamblers trying to find some edge and look for the best plays regarding Dana White's Contender Series. So we're looking to kick off this season off with a bang. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Up next on the card, we got Christopher Ewert versus Yuri Panferov. And honestly, this fight is just a really low-level fight. You know, when you got Ewert, who's a pressure striker with, you know, the boxing background, throws in volume. He does 5 to 6 combos, which is, I think is good, but he's extremely sloppy as fuck when it comes to defensively. When it comes to his defense, he eats a lot of shots and keeps walking forward and drags opponents into ugly brawls. He kind of likes to be in that, but struggles badly off the back. But he does struggle badly off the back foot and is easy to cage push, you know? Grappling defense is absolutely weak, but he is strong and urgent in scrambles and he uses his, like, you know, where somebody's trying to get up on top of me, just kind of brute strength and muscles his way out of bad spots. Cardio is definitely questionable, and he definitely fights until it's over, so to say. Panferov is a clinch-based grappler with poor striking, and he throws one shot at a time as well. He's very timid. His defense is absolutely, like, it's not there. He uses strikes mostly to set up his takedowns. His wrestling is limited to trips from the clinch. His sub game is sloppy and often goes for no hooks, rear naked chokehold sort of things, and really, really risky arm bars. His cardio is also very suspect. And I think he got dominated by Torres Finley here. And, you know, he hasn't faced any real resistance in his recent wins over low-level opponents. And the striking, Ewert absolutely edges it here. He's higher volume, better pace. Panferov doesn't really have the power to make him respect him. The grappling side, Panferov likely gets an early takedown, but struggles to hold the position, sort of say, and really land damage. Ewert's strength is probably, and his urgency is probably just going to allow him to be able to get back up. And the cardio-wise, Ewert slows down late, but he just keeps fighting. Panferov's track record is definitely suggestive that he's going to mentally fold or really just stop working after the takedowns. I mean, given that this is such a low-level fight, I really don't think that any of these fighters are going to be a major star. I don't think they're even going to be really that well in the UFC if one of them gets a contract. I would not be shocked if they didn't get a contract, so to say. Especially given the fact that I think that Ewert is going to win, and you know, he did miss weight by 10 pounds. They are giving him a second chance, so maybe they see something in him, but you know, let's be honest, I think this is going to be a trash fight. I'm going to watch it, of course. It's going to be fun. But when I mean trash fight, I don't mean like boring fight. I mean like a low-level fight, you know? But yeah, I got Ewert. I think he's going to win by knockout. I think late, too. So either the second round, probably the third. Up next on the card, we got Radley the Silva versus George Mangos. And this is one of those fights that I hate the matchmaking. You really don't want to see either one of these fighters lose. These two are legit UFC level prospects. Both are very dangerous everywhere. But one's going to be walking away with a W. Unfortunately, meaning that someone's going to be walking away with an L, of course. When you look at this one, Radley da Silva has been on an absolute tear coming off of his 4-year hiatus. 5 fights, 5 wins, and he hasn't lost a single round. We're talking about a guy who just absolutely runs through his opponents with ease, mixing in his slick striking, dominant wrestling, and just absolute really airtight grappling. Mangos is absolutely he's not a slouch either. He's very young as well, improving absolutely every fight, and really is also really just smashing through the regional scene as well with some brutal finishes and a solid submission game that makes him really just dangerous everywhere. This matchup is a rare, very, very good prospect versus very good prospect in the Contender Series to get a contract. So it's not even a UFC fight where you know what I'm saying? Like, where it's a fight where it just changes the career. No, this is a fight where you can start your career. It's weird, you know, but When you're talking about Radley, his striking is in capoeira. You see it everywhere. He's very explosive, very fast twitch type of striker, and he's extremely unpredictable. His spinning kicks and, he uses tricky angles, very lightning fast punches. You can see it. Once you see it, he's just one of those flashy fighters. But you can tell that he's extremely skilled. It's not that he's just flashy. His distance management is absolutely excellent. He switches stances really, really well and constantly as well, and has one of the most disciplined defensive guards that you're going to see in the regional scene. He's really impressive. On top of that as well, he's a really good wrestler as well. He timed his shot really well, and he trained wrestles, meaning that his cardio is just as elite as everybody else's. Once he's on top, he's like a wet blanket. He's basically not going to get off of you. He's kind of like what we just saw with Anthony Hernandez, sort of say. He's going to do some serious damage if he's on top. With Mangos, he's a different kind of striker. He's very patient, he's very calculated, and leans very much on basics, but with his crisp, sharp boxing, and he has really, really good leg kicks and has really good shot selection as well. He's not as flashy as the Silva, but extremely effective. His takedown defense has improved a lot through the JVH fight. He showed a lot of vulnerabilities in that, but it was a short notice fight, and his experience gap was huge there. But he was taken down repeatedly. That being said, Mangos stayed safe, didn't eat big damage, and eventually locked up a submission. That's the thing with Mangos. His grappling is sneaky good, especially when it comes to back takes. On the feet, I lean slightly towards the Silva, not because Mangos can't hang, but because he absolutely can, but because Radley's constantly moving. He's faster. It's very explosive, and he's very unpredictable, which just makes him really hard to read, and he can land his shots, of course. In the wrestling department, of course, I think it's clear advantage for the Silva. Mangos might be able to stuff some shots, but if Radley gets on top, I trust his control and positioning and ability to really smother him while he's there. The only real path to victory that I see for Mangos is to really just create chaos in the scrambles and hunt for the back, because if he does get the back, he's going to be very dangerous there. De Silva has been caught in deep submission attempts before, so if anybody can capitalize it, it's absolutely going to be Mangos. And this is really a high-level fight here, and I'm excited for it, especially because Mangos does bring a very dangerous submission game, but De Silva's experience, I think the wrestling edge, and really just the dynamic and quick, fast hitch movement is going to be, allow him to dictate and really just make this fight go how he wants it to go, sort of say. I think he's a smart fighter as well. He doesn't have low fight IQ. I think he's also disciplined. Not as disciplined as a Mangos, of course, but I think disciplined enough where he's not getting too crazy with this flashy movements and trying to get too, in the moment, sort of say. So I do have De Silva winning this one. I do think it's by decision. I don't really necessarily see someone finishing each other here. I do see both of these I do see both of these fighters impressing really all of us out there, and an argument where Mangos is going to come back here and get another chance. I do see him being part of the UFC eventually as well, even though I don't think he wins. And vice versa, whoever loses this fight, I think that about them. But I do think De Silva will edge out the rounds here and get a decision win here over Mangos. For the first fight in the card, we got Murtaza Talha versus Baysangur Susurkaev, and let's be honest, Talha got absolutely fucked by the worst possible opponent change that he could have ever gotten, to be honest. He was supposed to fight a guy named Piñas, who's wild. He's he throws looping strikes, very vulnerable to takedowns. That's a matchup that he can absolutely game plan for. But now he's facing Susurkaev, and if you've been following this season, I think he's one of the most promising prospects we've seen here. And the competition is definitely not elite, but he's just absolutely dragging everybody out there. I think this is an absolute striking mismatch now on the feet. This is absolute night and day. Talha's striking has never been his strong suit. Against Piñas, at least he could deal with wide looping strikes, sort of say. But Susurkaev, absolutely every single strike is going to go straight down the middle, and it's going to be tight. There's going to be no wasted movements, and that means Talha's openings are much smaller. His reaction time has to be faster. His mistakes are very much going to be punished, Susurkaev doesn't just throw hands either. He blends his boxing with kicks and really his knees really, really well. His leg kicks could be huge here because Talha doesn't really check them. And when you your lead leg gets chewed up early, your takedowns is slowed down immensely, and your movement becomes predictable, and your defense absolutely drops. And when you talk about the knees, Susurkaev times them absolutely beautiful up the middle, which I think is perfect for somebody against, which is perfect against someone like Talha, who's going to be shooting up in the middle, looking for desperate shots after a while. I can absolutely see him catching Talha flush and up the middle with a knee. In the grappling department, Talha's path to victory is absolutely always the same. Get the fight to the mat, work the back, and smother his opponent. He's good at it, definitely. His back takes are clean, and he's aggressive from a top control. But the problem is, Susurkaev's defensive wrestling is absolutely elite. He's got great takedown defense. He has some heavy hips, and his balance that makes you work for absolutely every inch. He doesn't really give you anything. Even if you get him down, holding him there is absolutely another different problem as well. His gets up are explosives, and he's very efficient as well, just like his striking. He's also shown that he can hit takedowns of his own and hold control with things like the body triangle. He's not a one-dimensional striker. He's a complete mixed martial artist. I think Susurkaev's one weakness is if there's an opening for Talha, that it's going to be the fact that Susurkaev sometimes fights a little too relaxed, almost like he knows that he's better than in front of the guy that he knows that he's better than the guy that he's fighting in front of him, sort of say, and it doesn't. Almost like he knows that he's better than the guy that he's facing in front of him, sort of say. That's where he's been caught in positions where opponents get to his back. Talha is absolutely dangerous there. So if Susurkaev gets lazy in a scramble, Talha can absolutely capitalize on that. But the key question is, can Talha actually get him in those positions consistently against someone with the level of wrestling defense and striking threat? I don't necessarily think so. I think the psychology of this matchup is another key component here. We've seen Talha struggle with this game plan A really not working, and then after that necessarily really transitioning well after. He's not as effective when forced to fight through an adversity type of fight, and going from Piñas, who had absolutely no takedown defense, to Susurkaev, who has excellent takedown defense. It's going to be a really rough night for him. I think Talha's best moments are going to come very early, maybe even the first 2 minutes when they're fresh and could shoot aggressively. But once Susurkaev starts landing those straight punches and start really, I think, just chopping at those legs, I think after round 2 it's going to be his game. So I think that Susurkaev is actually going to get a knockout by round 2. I think negative 320 is a great price, honestly. Give me Susurkaev by knockout. Up next on the card, we got the main event of Ilian Bouafia versus Neemias Santana. I'll be honest, I think this is a very strange choice for the main event. I think there was a lot more established names and a lot more skilled fighters that were available for the UFC. Instead, they really went with these two guys who are really, who are very talented, absolutely, but just very green, We haven't really, and very raw. We haven't really, what we have here is not a battle for rankings. It's really a battle of survival, I think, who's just going to get a contract, sort of say, of reputation as well, and momentum, most importantly. I think both strikers are going to stand and trade, but stylistically, this fight is a study in contrast. One fights like a sniper, and the other one fights like a street brawler, sort of say. When you talk about Bouafia, his game is basic, but it's absolutely effective. He lives and dies by the straight left. And when I say lives and dies, I mean almost everything he throws is that punch. It's very accurate, it's clean, and it can rack up points very fast, but here's the problem. It's extremely predictable. That's the thing. When you close the gap, his toolbox absolutely starts to look empty, sort of say. He doesn't really throw volume. He looks like he looks to control the range, but necessarily does it well. He doesn't check leg kicks whatsoever, and I think that's going to be a big issue for him here. Something that, I think he's been dropped by lower level guys as well, and that tall man's defense, so to say, where they just stick their head up in the air, is always risky, in my opinion, especially inside exchanges where he's not really in his comfort zone. So, that's just not where he likes to be. He likes to control the range. Santana, on the other hand, is, if you watch his older fights, he really barely does anything at range. He just stands there and maybe tosses a leg kick. But lately, he's absolutely flipped the script around and started bringing the heat regarding the scenarios now. He's got a wide stance, but he does walk into punches. But when he does do that, he closes the distance, and he does do it well, and really just throws with bad intentions. He throws really sloppy hooks, but it comes with really, really big power, and he's just really constantly pressuring you. He really doesn't give a crap about getting hit to hit you. He will take one to throw one. And he's always been fighting tougher competition, especially on the Brazilian regional circuit, which means he's already been in very ugly and very gritty fights before. And then you have his chin, which is, held up very well so far. And you got a guy who he's just not afraid to eat shots. So we got a very interesting fight here, especially because Bouafia is a better striker at range. I do think that he can pick Santana apart if this stays clean, and calculated. But the second that Santana really starts to make this into a brawl and make this ugly, starts to close the gap and really start to pressure him and walk through the shots and really just start throwing ugly bombs and doesn't really care if he's getting punched and start getting bloody, Bouafia's comfort zone is actually going to disappear, I think. Without the reach advantage like he's used to, this is going to get dangerous very, very fast and very, very ugly very, very fast. I think Santana's leg kicks could chip away very early as well because Bouafia doesn't check him at all, and Bouafia is going to start to slow down. And during those pocket exchanges, it's going to become very dangerous for him because that's what Santana likes to be in. It's a fight that can flip really in a matter of seconds, but it also can just stay in one direction the entire fight, so to say. It can be a brawl the entire time, or it can be a clean fight the entire time. And whatever side we're on is whatever side who should win, so to say. If it gets ugly, Santana, if he maintains that, I think he's going to make it ugly. If he makes it ugly, I'm sorry. If he makes it ugly and he maintains that, I think he's going to make it a very interesting fight and hard to disagree, to argue that he loses the fight, so to say. Same thing with Bouafia. If he keeps it clean, then it's going to be hard to argue the fact that looping strikes from Santana are going to win him the matchup. I do think that Bouafia might win the early minutes and start landing clean shots and looking sharp, but over time, I think Santana's pressure, most importantly his chin, and the power are going to really start to wear him down and make him lose comfort in that fight, So ultimately, I do think that Santana gets it done and edges it out. I think he might get a knockout, possibly in round 3. But at the end of the day, he is walking through fire and trying to make it into a brutal fight. So he might get knocked out himself. So this one's really tough to see whether or not this is going to go to the decision or not. But ultimately, I do think that Santana is going to make it ugly enough where he's going to win rounds 2 or 3, or possibly knock him out in rounds 2 or 3. So give me Santana to win this one. All right, guys, that's it for me for Week 1's Dana White's Contender Series breakdown. You're going to see 5 fighters hopefully get a contract, maybe possibly 4, and you're going to see some 5 fighters hopefully get another chance later in the future. But those are my predictions and breakdowns. If you want some of our bets, hit me up on Instagram, follow the Patreon with the link below, and I'll catch you next time for Week 2 of Dana White's Contender Series. Until then, stay up.